Well, we made it. This is the last episode of Bread for Dough. This is episode 7. I told you I've been saving a really good one for last, and it's something that has very few ingredients actually, but very good ingredients. I'm also going to take you through both versions of what I've been doing over the last number of weeks, which is to say, since I have to do a second loaf for the close-ups, so we're going to make this once in the bread maker and then once as a dough that goes on a baking sheet in the oven. What we're working with today, this is some of my favorite stuff. This is rosemary. This is out of my garden. We've got a wonderful bunch. This is going to make 2 loaves of bread. Our other primary ingredient is kalamata olives. Wonderfully flavorful. It's about $6-7 a pound for this. But again, we're going to get 2 loaves out of this. They are pitted because we're going to dice it up, and we don't want to really take the time of pitting it. And we're going to use olive oil. So the easiest way to pull these off, I'll show you on a nice straight one, is the easiest way to show. Is we want to pull these basically against the grain. You see, if we wipe with the grain, and it just smells great. You get that oil on your fingers. You're just sort of petting the thing. But if we go against the grain and pull, it comes right off, just like that. So what I want to do is just go in one direction, and then I bring it back together, and then I just go 90 degrees on it. Okay, so that's what I am left with. All that went down to a small amount. It actually seemed a little thin, even so. So I went ahead and sacrificed the showpiece I had, and I went back and I really picked these stems clean. But I want this, I want this bread to be like a fine meal, where you've got a combination of flavors that just fit really well together. And when you take a bite off the plate, you've got all the flavors in every bite. Okay, now the olives, it's just basically the same thing. I do want them small enough to make sure I get some in every bite. When I look at a loaf like that, I want to be able to see like 20 different specks in it. Okay, these are pitted. So we'll just play with this for a while and come back. Okay, from here it gets easy. And this is, it even looks elegant because of the few ingredients and the glassware and everything. It's going to be all white flour. We're going to make a kind of an Italian/French bread. You could add stuff to it, but honestly, the first time you make it like this with just plain white flour so you can taste the 2 ingredients. So full 2.5 cups of white flour. The sugar, we usually put in 3 tablespoons of sugar. I'm going to cut that back to 2 tablespoons. We don't want this to be a sweet bread. This is basically for the yeast. Salt, teaspoon of salt. And the only other thing left is the gluten. Same as usual. And we'll give that a stir. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut the rosemary into this. Quite a bit of this. Because it's, it's dry enough. It does have the oil on it, but it's not gonna have enough to paste it up. So I'm going to mix that in. Okay, the wet ingredients are simple. We've got water, we've got eggs, we've got oil. The eggs, little extra step here. I don't want the bread to be yellow. I want it to be white. So I'm going to just use the egg whites, not the yolks. 3/4 of a cup of water. And I'm going to separate the eggs. So it's separate from the water. I don't want those yolks in there. I'll still give this a little bit of a mix. We're starting to. Throw that in the water. And finally the oil. I'm usually using 4 tablespoons of oil. In this case, I'm going to go ahead right it back to the 6, the standard 6. You might even want to go 8. I mean, this is like a dipping bread at a restaurant kind of a thing. So I'm going to go 6. You want to get the best extra virgin olive oil you can, because that's going to have the strongest flavor. Now at this point, I'll go ahead and mix the olives into the flour. Do a little bit of a coating gently. It also breaks up chunks while they're still on top where I can see them. Okay, and that's it. We're ready to go in. Liquid first. Dry on top of that. Beautiful little pile. Make a little hole in the center. And we go ahead and use about a teaspoon and a quarter of yeast on this. That's it. This time we've got 3 basic settings here, basic, French, and sweet. I'm going to use the middle one here. I'm going to use the French this time. Always light crust. And we'll let that go. Okay, this is going to be great stuff. So here's the situation. I've put a little flour in the bowl to use in a minute. The machine has finished its second cycle, and it's warmed not hot, which means that it's just kneaded the bread a second full knead. So I'm going to set this out someplace to rise. Now this particular one, I think I'm going to go ahead and use parchment paper. At this point, the yeast is pretty much going at its maximum. It's had some time to sit. It's been kneaded. That's activated it. So this thing is really going to puff up. Okay, so I'm going to flour the top of this. Nice and floured. The bread is safely floured. I'm just going to let it be like that. Put this in the warmest place in the house for an hour, and then we'll come back. This is the bread that I actually let it rise for an hour and a half. I'm going to put this in the oven now on lowest heat and give it 30 minutes. The oven is on low, very, very low, it's just on warm. So we have a nice dough, and the only thing I want to do with this is, before I bake it, is I want to slit it. So what I want to do is have a soft spot here so that when it cooks now it'll actually separate. So now let's throw the temperature up to about 400 and give it a half an hour. Let's see what we got. It's looking pretty good. Our split happened, but it doesn't look all that impressive, but you know, no harm done really. So that is the bread maker. Well, let's give it a shot. This one's warm and soft, so it's going to harden up as it cools a bit. But there you go. So this is olive rosemary bread.